it's really fine. Make a fortune means, make a huge amount of money. Hit the jackpot. Do you even actually know hit the jackpot? Hit the jackpot means, they somehow actually, create such an amount of windfall profits. I can actually give out more information. Oh, the windfall profit. Windfall profit. Or even actually, bring down the house. Bring down the house. Or hit by a lucky streak. Or land on bonanza. Yeah, these are really the expression. Oh, no, I cannot use this. I have to use a different version. Let me show you, Frederick. It's really unfair.
No, I'm on now.
That's a really kind of bizarre. I really need to think about it. Yeah, Task for Fund Research and drug companies make a fortune. I really actually know. Why, gosh, oh my god, how crazily taxpayers fund research group and drug sellers make a fortune. Oh my gosh, that was so perfectly correct. I was really surprised. I'm really like this kind of person, right? 너무나 정확하잖아. 괜히 못하게 해. I really actually read English much faster than anything you can ever imagine. Yeah, I was really correct, right? I've already done it. 됐고. 됐고요. Let me actually show you. 여기서 밑에서부터 해볼게요. Why are the Manhattan's COVID-19 rates are so low? That means, the city of the city. When you actually, say the city, it's a Manhattan, right? New York City had how many different boroughs? Queens, Brooklyn, Bronx, and Stony, what was that? The Staten Island, right? I don't want to even actually go to New York, but I remember it. And Manhattan. But the problem is, in comparison with the entire cities, entire New York City's COVID-19 rates, why the Manhattan is really the only borough that has such a low rate. That's a problem, right? Rich and wealthy people, they're well regarded. That's really the reason Manhattan has such a low rate. Why are the Manhattan's COVID rates so low compared to the entire city's rates? What's been actually being compared is this. When it comes to COVID, Manhattan only had like 10 patients, but the entire city of New York City, Manhattan like had 10 people. But the entire New York City had 100 people affected by COVID-19. Like this. Why, in comparison with the infection rates, entire city, in the Manhattan, almost like it's 10 to 1, right? Why is this so? Why Manhattan's rates are so low? They can only be explained because of the economic reason. Why? Because of people living in the city. The city, when you actually say that the city, it's really Manhattan. In comparison with the entire city of New York, people actually living in the city, living in Manhattan, they're rich. They have more space. If you think about it, if you're actually from Brooklyn or Queens, you're likely to share in a more space between many people. That means you really need to rub your elbows and the shoulders with your families. That means you're likely to get in touch with more people, then that's trouble. Yeah, right. That's a real reason. You don't really need to think twice about it. The original sentence was like this. I really can't understand that, why people actually have that kind of assumption. I even actually understand so many more difficult, or even actually never been a conventional usages from CNN pundits who actually really flaunt up their illusion skills immediately without actually thinking twice about it, or having a regurgitation or rumination like a cow. I got it immediately. No one gave me credit. Just like them, I couldn't get it really quickly. New questions about Biden's psychological and physical health? Yeah. Ignored by the press. That's it. I don't really need to think about it. It's very obvious to me. Is there any illusion? illusion 이때까지만 할게요. Criminal justice. I'm not gonna live here in South Korea, no chance. Here's why Biden is making a total blunder on welfare, immigration, and criminal justice. I don't really need to think twice about it. It's very obvious. You know what? This is really the reason why Biden is botching up things like that. I will actually wait until I really actually run into unexpected idiomatic expressions or allusions so I can explain further, okay? After that, I want to go back to German, okay? Oh, I got it. Democrats will live up to regret if they somehow nuke the filibuster. You know what? Think about it. Nuke the filibuster means if the Democrats truly nullify the filibuster, this old institution part of the Senate for eons, then they're going to really regret that. They're going to own up to their own mistake. Eventually, the history will never go easy on them. Ha! Immediately got it. Can you do that? Yeah, most of Americans can do it. This was the original sentence. I can explain it. Dames will live up to their regret. That means, dames are going to be harshly judged by history, even to the degree of shaming them, or their legacy would be so much more worse than they would ever think of at this moment. If they ever try to abrogate and revoke the institution that is, old, as much old as the institution called the U.S. Senate, if they ever try to actually nullify it by absolutely abrogating the filibuster, then they're going to actually eventually shame themselves. They're going to spit on their face. This is going to haunt the entire party. Because this is really part of the convention. Why would they ever actually, based upon a shallow calculation, to think that filibuster would be against the policy? If they ever wants to pass the bill and they think that Republicans would terrorize and sabotage the entire system by going on a filibuster, this type of shallow calculation would actually justify their decision to nullify and annihilate this tradition deeply rooted in the Senate. That's called the filibuster. By emptying it out, then they were going to be very much in shame, because the history will not actually go easy on them. The descendants will eventually, think Democrats somehow couldn't tame their obsession with the power, since they've been actually so much empowered with the majority of the Senate and the House, even the White House. They were really running away with the power. They were deeply drenched in uncontrolled and unbridled power, so they think that they can even actually ignore the tradition and the virtue of democracy by acting so recklessly. Then eventually they're going to be judged harshly. That's really the argument. Eventually, to the degree of their own regret. This is really, watch out. You're going to regret that, because eventually the history will not judge you kindly. They will never. Those people after us, the generations after us, they're not going to deem you kindly. They're not going to think of you highly. That's really the argument. Oh, nuke. Can I actually write it down in a better sentence? 그러면 좀 더 좋은 문장으로 적을게요. Abrogate. Fugacious popularity. Tell the truth, it's better to put the D. Yeah. The New York Post editorial board claims that the Democrats abrogate filibuster in the Senate driven by their fugacious popularity, especially emboldened by their majority stance on both chambers, then they will be sorry for their decision. Why? Because history is not to appreciate the shallow estimation assessment of the convention. Why? Because you know what? This filibuster giving a power to any gainsayer relying upon a legitimate cause, part of the convention and the rule book of the Senate. This system is institutionalized. It's not really just, randomly selected choice for any protester. And if you ever actually think that you are empowered to annihilate this convention, deeply rooted in the institution, then you must be greatly mistaken. Then eventually, you're going to eventually regret that you're not going to use this one either. Think about it. Because, power is such a thingy that's so fugacious. Fugacious means it's evanescent. It's really like morning dew that will disappear sooner or later, right? And eventually, the tables could be turned around you. You could be the opposite party. If you don't actually have this power, if you do not have a majority power in the Senate, then you're going to actually miss the filibuster too. Also, the constitutional or congressional scholars, or even actually, possibly our descendants, they would probably have a complaint about your decision because filibuster has been so institutionalized in the system of a Senate. So congressional historians, they really study this type of history by meticulously tracking down papers and records about filibuster. Yeah, there are many books published about the filibuster, so you can actually, watch it, or even actually read many of authoritative documents recording the steps and the actual precedents of filibuster in the Senate, right? How many times did the filibuster occur on the Senate floor? Like, this kind of arguments are constantly being debated, and what type of procedures they need to follow. I'm not the one who actually said that. But power is really like, a rose petal that would eventually rot. It's so evanescent and fugacious. That means it's gonna disappear. It's really fleeting, in passing, right? Can we say that? Passing, fleeting? It's really easy. By the way, it's really crazy if you ever think that, I didn't really understand when, but those people are really kind of crazy. They always actually dismiss them so many different, allusions that I was correct when I was given the entire sentence, They just actually focus on one little thing. I'm really sorry, but I didn't really understand her French. But you know what? Let me actually mention two things. The French is exactly like, English. They had a two normal meaning. Il est sorti. It could actually be depending upon a circumstance in anything. He left me. My boyfriend left me. He dumped me. Il est sorti. That's a possible. And he just passed away. I'm not lying. I never actually learned this before, but I understand it. It's really, he's gone. He's gone means, he's gone out of my life. He just actually left me. He left me alone. There was a very famous song that she's gone out of my life. I've already actually known to this. But the thing is, I didn't really realize, I didn't realize what she was saying. The very first sentence was the turning point. She said that today it is a very tragic day and sad day for me. She said something like that, but I didn't really hear that at the very beginning. I didn't even realize she was speaking in French, so that line was missed from me. But you know what? Il est sorti could be anything. He left me. You know what? He just passed away. He's gone. Or you know what? He was actually no longer available. Or he would actually break out of our relationship. There were so many things. Don't fucking actually assume that I didn't really know this expression. It's not later learned. After that, whenever I actually encountered the sentence, I always explain it immediately. I don't really need to think. But you know what? Basically, there were two things. I just actually watched an American movie, and she said that, he left me. That means, he's gone. He just actually, had a split up with her. He just dumped her. It has nothing to do with he passed away. But the thing is, you need to understand, what I really didn't get it is, her precedent sentence, because I didn't recognize her French. He said that she left him, Today is a very sad day for me. I didn't really get that. I'm actually really terrible with the foreigners speaking foreign language. I'm not lying. I still remember the sad day for me. So ever since I've been actually encountering this, il est sorti, even in French. I just actually watched another French movie after that. She said that, there was a young lady who said that il est sorti, he left me, the father of my child truly departed our household. He made a departure from us. When she actually meant that, he said il est sorti. Really exact same sentence. But I didn't really hear that. Today's a sad day for me. I didn't get that because, I didn't understand her French. That was really the reason why. But, if you really want to actually know that, il est sorti can be anything. He left me. My boyfriend dumped me. Or my husband left me. My husband filed a divorce for me. Like this, my husband filed for a divorce, and this kind of sentence can be possible, but I just actually missed her first French syllable. That was really the reason I didn't get it. But whenever somebody actually said this in English or French after that, I explained it immediately on the spot without actually wasting another minute. Not because I was actually onto it, not because I searched for something, but I actually understand. I was to stay in the tune. I was able to understand, before and after circumstances, then it's not difficult at all. That was really and I really actually, approved myself pretty much justified. I really have a terrible history with this foreigner just speaking other language. When you try to actually justify that her French pronunciation really is perfect, but it's more like when she was singing. I'm actually, pretty much, yeah, but I don't really, I'm not really so sure. But whenever there is a real French people talking, I can't understand it. I'm really sorry. That's my weakness. I'm really terrible with the foreigners speaking different language. It's not discriminatory, not at all. But I really have a difficulty of understanding that. No, it's really not true. It's really kind of crazy. Those are really two things. Please, Mayor de Blasio, don't make our students homeless. Please do not actually, let our students be, sequestered from their parents. Mayor de Blasio trying to actually open up the school. Maybe he wants, his children, the children, not really his children. I mean, he's a, not really he's a student, but he's a city's children. He's a city's student. Stay away from the rest of the parents. I honestly say that, this is a really like a fatherly figure. But Mayor Bill de Blasio, probably he wants to have all the New York City's children separated from their parents, possibly. Or maybe they were just actually trying to, do something radical. I don't know. But the thing is, what, I can only think of two things. When was there another time that I missed any time? Every single time there was an expression, allusions, I explain immediately on this spot. I can even actually not, every single time that took place, I have to actually written that down. How many of them? The only missing thing was, one, when Chosumi actually said that, because I could not understand her French, so technically there was nothing written. Il est sorti could actually mean, basically two different things. Just like, in English, he's gone. Or there was a very famous song, she's gone out of my life. But I didn't really understand. Later, I actually listened to it again, so I actually realized that today is a very sad day for me. Then everything makes sense. I've never actually really, I was not at all in need of actually knowing this, because I've been actually really accustomed to English expression. She's gone from my life. So she passed away several years ago. I actually read this kind of expressions frequently from Bach. I don't really need to. The only missing thing was I did not understand her French. It was really the true case. I could not, I could not understand. Aujourd'hui est très, aujourd'hui, c'est le jour est très très triste pour moi. I couldn't understand that. I really don't remember her exact word, but anyhow, but I understand the Timothy Salaman, Timothy Salaman's expression. Is that really great, right? Because I'm really pretty much good with the rest of the real people speaking real language, and that's really all I can do. Not real brave. No sin is ever forgiven this brave new walk day. In this new alerted and awakened day, nothing is really forgiven. Yeah, I don't really need to. Oh, I wanna find any expressions that is about illusions, but there is nothing in it. But can I actually find anything? Oh, I really actually need a New York Times book. Can I actually, can I use a different gadget to actually go down? Because it's pretty much annoying. Normally I can actually do that. Why wouldn't they never actually let me have it? I don't know. The only missing thing was, what, a new wave, white. I mean, that's really the only thing, right? So far, my score is very obvious. The only thing that I missed was, if I misclicking a white flag. But it's really the same as, throw in a towel. Throw in a towel. Or, where you just actually say that you actually have your hands off. You try to actually back away from it. Or you said, it's enough for me. That's a really common expression. And, someone is gone. That's not something that I was actually being missing. No, it's really, I can never actually accept that one. Her French was not really that perfect. If you don't actually pay a close attention to her, you might not actually listen to it. That's not my mistake. I'm not lying. Technically, il est sorti. That's really the only thing that I heard. I'm not lying. You can actually grab any French person. Il est sorti, without actually, it's really similar to English. Il est sorti, If you ever say that you don't really actually listen to the first, sentence or the second sentence, il est sorti means, somebody's gone. I said he left me. It's a perfect expression. I said he left me. That's what I said. He left me. He left me alone. That's what I said. He left me. But it could be anyway. In a relationship, you were dumped. You were dumped. So you need to actually, it's not my fault. Let me actually, have any chance and immediately try to actually turn on the CNN. Let's try to actually see that. It's not me. I'm not crazy. Let me actually show you. I will actually listen to, real CNN right now. Let's try to see that. Let's see something. I don't really have any difficulty. You're going to actually see this. I never actually lied about it. I'm really great with expressions.
COVID Saturday at 9.
COVID Saturday at 9.
Virtual try-on is perfect. Like, they look like they're on my face. Like, look at this. I can actually virtually try it on.
Yeah, that's really Saturday night.
Switch. That was so easy. They make it so fun and fabulous.
We're Thrive Cosmetics. We create high-performance, cruelty-free, 100% vegan formulas, and we love that you love our
People are
products.
greatly mistaken. Never in my life, I've been actually forgotten about the white flag. They actually greatly ignore so many beautiful expressions I've immediately explained. Because I don't really forget, and I don't really need to be exposed to certain expressions as long as those are really spoken by the real Americans or real British people who really actually use English on a regular basis. I don't really need to.
Let's take a poll.
It's really shameful to think that way. I can prove it. COVID or to say something, I can prove. But her French was somewhat unrecognizable unless you pay a very serious
France,
attention.
Germany, Canada, Brazil,
Oh
all
my
raising
gosh.
concerns over the highly contagious variant first found in the United Kingdom of coronavirus B.1.1.7. How big of a threat is it here in the United States? Joining us now is Michael Osterholm. He's the director of the Center for Infectious Disease Research and Policy at the University of Minnesota. Professor, as always, thanks so much. We don't have to look to Brazil. We don't have to look to France. What about Michigan? I mean, you can look to your left from where you are in Minnesota and start to worry about the possibilities of the variant here. Cases on the rise, steeply on the rise in Michigan. Hospitalizations clearly on the
So, you want me to explain it. John Berman used a left. What does that mean here, left? You don't really need to look far away. Excuse me, in our home terrain, close to home, there are serious growing cases. The left means, home territory, domestic territory. I've never even heard of this type of usage, but John Berman, Harvard graduate, he's a very, a great speaker when it comes to pronouncing the words and knowing the English usage, right? So, what has he said? You know what, right now, we've been actually greatly alerted about the possible danger of a corona variant to B117. The France and Germany and Italy and, different, even Brazil, they are all struggling with the, outburst of explosion of the corona infections. They're actually being, more and more powerful enough to affect more and more people in these regions. But we do not really need to look far away. We do not need to look, where we might not be directly affected. Here, the left means, we can actually look our home field. You don't really need to go far away. If you ever actually turn your eyes to this great state called Michigan, you actually see in this graph, there are such growing numbers. All of a sudden, there is an outburst, an explosion of corona infection cases, especially affected by the new variant called the B117. France and Germany and Brazil, they're all experiencing these, heavy surge caused by the COVID-19 variant called the B117. Here is, a very special expression used by, not really special, but, it's a very common expression. But left means you don't really need to actually look, certain side. It means, you do not really need to rely on foreign cases. Why don't we actually just look inwardly? Our domestic situation also exactly reflects this. What is trending in what is trending in the global community per se, right? Left means our home field. You don't really need to actually look different countries to figure out the danger of a B117. Because, our domestic terrain, especially represented by the state of Michigan, is equally experiencing these type of situations too. Left means, I'm not lying. I don't really need to. I've never heard of this kind of usage. Because normally, the much more popular thing is left field question. Left field question. Left field is something unrelated. But here, left is a really completely different expression. Left means, our home yard, our home backyard. Our home terrain is equally represented. Something close to home, there is a close case that affects our heart and body. And I've never prepared for it. And John Berman is a very smart person. He's a Harvard graduate. No, I'm not lying. It's my Achilles heel. Honestly, every single language that I learn, I'm actually pretty okay with regional speakers or native speakers or native interlocutors speech. I'm pretty much powerful with that, but I'm actually really terrible with foreigners speaking, even in Korean. It's my mistake. But every single time after that, whenever somebody actually said the illustrati, or even actually I just watched them